what do you think it is that the president teased out yesterday? Big announcement regarding an issue that we've had to deal with for decades. And it can't be the Gulf of Arabia or the Arabian Gulf, because that's already been done. It used to be the Persian Gulf. Now it's changed. Used to be Gulf of Mexico. Now it's Gulf of America. Will they rename other bodies of water? Well, Antarctica. I think they could use a refresh. Joining us now is Kennedy.
Hello,
discuss
Brian.
That and so much more. Were you surprised about Gulf of Arabia or Arabia Gulf?
I have a lot of friends who are Persian, so I got to take a poll and see how they feel about it.
Probably upset.
Yeah, because Persian Gulf is like, if you were born in Iran and you fled after the revolution.
Yeah, it was Persian.
You call yourself Persian. And I have a lot of Persian friends, especially growing up in LA, because a lot of families relocated in Los Angeles. And I gotta take their temperature, Brian.
All right, fine. The Houthi rebels, you basically grew up with them. It's pretty much a group
I did. I
with.
spent a lot of time in Yemen. A lot of people don't. I don't put that on Wikipedia because I don't need to be the hero here.
Right. And usually you don't put things on Wikipedia. Wikipedia just knows.
They know.
Yeah. And by the way, do the Houthi rebels call themselves rebels? Or they just call themselves Houthis?
No, they call themselves amazing. Like, they're not as humble as they should be.
That's true. I mean, they are now out of the I'm going to shoot America business. After 800 targeted strikes. They seem to have not wanted to fight. President Trump made that announcement yesterday. I did not know they were talking to Steve Witkoff, but it looks like he's got, I guess, one victory. How do you feel about it?
That's a busy guy. That's a busy guy with a lot on his plate, because he is all over the map trying to secure peace, and that's what our country should be doing. Like, we should be aiming for peace.
Yes.
And encouraging peace, prosperity, capitalism, free trade wherever we go, because that's what lifts people out of poverty and makes life better.
But free trade, that's not a buzz term that Trump uses a lot.
He doesn't use that term, but I think that's what he's going for.
Right.
He wants reciprocal free trade.
Right. You go to zero. But let's listen to 24.
We had some very good news last night. The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that.
But the one thing I would say is they do want to fight because they're still rocketing Israel. So they just don't want to fight us, it seems. But who wants to be, if you do have a merchant barge?
Yes.
If you could send that through the Gulf of Hormuz.
Yes.
Could you do that and see if anyone shoots at you? And
it's actually going to be renamed the Gulf of Macy's.
Right? Because they paid the money.
That's right.
They paid the money. Mm-hmm. So they have to.
Title sponsor.
Here is right. And by the way, that just shows you'll sell anything.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, we were going to do the Gulf of Crypto.com.
Right.
But we're worried that, we want them to have another decade to make sure they have staying power.
No, one thing
There's nothing more embarrassing than like having to change the name of a ballpark or a massive body of water.
Right. Yeah. Same thing. When they introduce you on Outnumbered, sometimes I see different sponsors. Like here is Nike's own Kennedy.
Yeah, that's right. And then I wear different patches depending on the topics. Yeah, right. I know. It's like, I've got McDonald's. Right. I've got Nabisco, Pennzoil.
So you make a lot of money if every appearance.
Oh,
you don't even need your salary.
Well, I don't.
Right. So,
I take it because I believe in capitalism and I know my worth. Right. I settle for more, Brian.
You settle for more?
Everywhere I go.
Who said that? The CEO, who was it?
Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly, settle for more. Thank you very much. Yeah. Here's Donald Trump promising something. Cut 25.
We're going to, as you know, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. We're going to UAE and Qatar. And that'll be, I guess, Monday night. Some of you are coming with us. I think before then, we're going to have a very, very big announcement to make, like as big as it gets.
What could that be? Did he pigeonhole himself? No. Just big announcement.
Big announcement.
Big as it gets.
Big as it gets. So. My one piece of advice for the president, maybe stop overselling things.
Right.
Because if the reality doesn't match the potential, then, the press gives you a hard time. But if you kind of undersell, it's like, this is going to be pretty big. And then if it's huge, people are like, oh my God, we didn't think this would happen in our lifetime.
Here's Jessica Millen Patterson on Fox News at night. Your favorite show?
Favorite.
But even though do like to go to bed early.
Who hosts that?
Trace Gallagher.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
your
Silver
colleague.
Fox.
Yeah. By the way, good athlete. He was a competitive water skier.
That's right.
Right. When everyone else was taking the car or taking a boat, he was skiing.
He was skiing behind the boat.
Right. A lot of people can't get a hold of him. Where is he? He's skiing.
Yeah.
Right. Where's
He's on
Trace?
one
There's a
ski.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he can do one ski.
Yeah.
If he's that good, as I
mean,
say.
you don't say competitive water skiing doesn't take place on two skis.
Right.
It just doesn't.
You're right. You know what it did? Happy Days, Fonzie, when he had to jump over the shark.
Yeah.
He two skis.
Well, it's because he did his own stunts.
That's true. He's always done it.
Yeah, always.
Like that was him walking down the stairs.
He was our Jackie Chan.
Right. Yeah, that's it. He slowly walked around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't really ever even fight anybody. He just threatened
He didn't have
them.
to. Yeah.
Right. Does he embrace that label? Our generation's Jackie Chan?
He knows it.
Right.
He's kind of proud of it. But again, so humble. He would never introduce himself.
How
that
well
way.
do you know him?
I actually know Henry Winkler pretty well.
Really?
Because he was the executive producer of a game show that I guest hosted on Game Show Network, and he was the executive producer of Hollywood Squares, and I was a square for several years there during my time as a game show host, and he was the most generous, kindest, loving person I think I've ever met.
Right.
And he treated everyone on that set the same, and he treated them all like family. It was such an incredible lesson.
Now, I've experienced him a couple of times, and that is what I think, but I'm almost disappointed.
Well, he said you were the one person he met that he didn't like, and I thought that was
well. And did you stand up for me and go, no? Well, here's the thing. I wanted him to have a little bit of an edge. I wanted him to be a little like
Fonzie?
the character. Yeah. No? Okay.
I mean, try to hit him. He's got cat-like reflexes.
He does. Because I saw him in Waterboy. He was brilliant as a coach there. That team had no talent. And then they just have this one player. Came all the way back. Jessica Millen Patterson from Fox News at Night with Trace Gallagher, who water skis. She speculated, cut 26.
Well, we know that the president is headed to the Middle East.
Right.
We also heard him talk today about the Houthis coming to the table and saying we want a ceasefire. They have been brought to their knees. 800 precision attacks and 0 apologies from this president. He does not have any interest in endless wars. He wants to be completely strategic and have maximum impact with the results that he gets from using this show of force. So I think that we're going to see an expansion of the Abraham Accords. He's going to the Middle East.
Thinking.
This is something that he was very, very proud of in his first term. And I think you're going to see even more people coming to the table. And he's really trying to bring lasting peace to the Middle East.
So it's got to be Saudi Arabia and Israel. But Saudi Arabia has been clear until you settle what's going on in Gaza. I'm not signing anything. But maybe they feel it's a fait accompli. I don't know. Gaza is very much in turmoil still.
Yes. But, perhaps they're like, well, maybe this will be the impetus for peace. Because if you have a player as big as Saudi Arabia who wants, and that's what I thought automatically when we were listening to that in real time on the Outnumbered Couch, because, that announcement came during his bilateral press conference with Prime Minister Carney from the state of Canada. And that's the first thing I thought. I was like, this has to be an expansion of the Abraham Accords.
So we had two big things to say. Oh, by the way, Houthis tired of fighting.
Yeah.
Big surprise. Got to go.
Mark Carney's like, yeah, keep talking. I do not want to talk myself out of a deal.
Well, what about Scott Bessent? Then he ends the day by going, I'm going to scale. I'm going to have a de-escalation meeting in Switzerland.
And with China.
With China. I mean, that's a pretty big day.
I think Bessent is like...
the man.
I think he's like the silent ninja.
Right.
I really do. Like, I think that he is so well comported. I think he's incredibly smart. I think that he has, a very even temperament. And those are all good qualities for someone who is going to be diplomatic. It's also very interesting because Bessent seems like more of a Secretary of State than Marco Rubio.
Yes. Well, right now we are doing economic diplomacy.
Yes.
Cut 3.
The world has been coming to the U.S., and China has been the missing piece. I was going to be in Switzerland to negotiate with the Swiss. Turns out the Chinese team is traveling through Europe, and they will be in Switzerland also. So we will meet on Saturday and Sunday. And, look, we have shared interest that this isn't sustainable, as I said before, especially on the Chinese side. And 145%, 125% is the equivalent of an embargo. We don't want to decouple. What we want is fair trade.
So this is what I say that comes out of this. You ready? 20% down. They're going to say, I think the Chinese are going to come and say, these are the ports where the precursors are coming from. We are going to clamp down on it, maybe even provide some video. And that would allow Trump to say, I gave you 25% tariffs because you wouldn't clamp down on fentanyl. It seems so long ago, but it wasn't too long ago before the April announcement. And that would be one off-ramp. Hey, we're going to crack down on illegal drugs. So we'll take 25% off your tariff, get us in the right direction. So the whole face-saving and pride thing can get out of the way and we just grind it out.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Long pauses make me think you're not following, thinking about something else. Don't agree.
It's not that I don't agree. I just think China has no way to save face right now. And this meeting about a meeting that's going to take place in Switzerland is really the only way for them to, in their minds, get a hold of the narrative once again, because they've lost it. Like if this team announces a deal with India, South Korea, and Japan, that really isolates China. That really, and they don't have the combined GDP of China, but a trade alliance like that,
right,
is so powerful and humiliating for China. So I think this meeting is going to be a way to figure out how to navigate this so China doesn't look like America's bitch.
Evidently, Radio Asia says that there's all types of walkouts and layoffs in Chinese factories. There's anger about paychecks haven't been around for months, people working for free. And then you have that whole generation who they call it laying out. They're not going to school and they're not going to work. They're just laying under society. They don't want any part of it. Depressed, feeling like they're in an oppressive country, they don't have anything to do. That's their way of fighting back. They got a series of things that it's not niche. They seem to have major problems on housing.
If you're not working and you've got an entire generation or half a generation that's not working, imagine what that does to tax revenue.
Right. Absolutely. And by the way, if you retire, I've thought they would get great benefits. It's one of the things, communist country. They say $160 a month, and no one's happy about that. So then they say, you got to become a consumer country. Stop depending on America. These guys go, really? We got no money.
Yeah.
And when we do have money, we got to save it because you're not giving us anything.
They don't really have a free market.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I forget the whole communist thing is not as great as it sounds.
Yes. No,
right?
It's still very much a state-run economy.
Right. But I'm anti-communist. Are you?
Virulently, yes.
Thank you. Want to make sure because you're wearing red.
I'm wearing red for women's heart health.
Oh, are you? It's not done on a Wednesday?
Well, you can
never,
again, like,
you can never care enough about
I'm such a giver. Exactly.
Right.
And their hearts.
Back in a moment.
Note to Dawn Kilmeade, Brian's wife.
Dawn?
Dawn?
What did Dawn say?
I'm going to take Dawn's side.
Shout out to Dawn.
Dawn feels as though she's got to give me advice on how to drive. Why are you going so fast? Why are you going so slow? Dawn just wrote me. She says she does have friends.
Do you think that Brian is Dawn's emergency
Not a
contact?
chance. Even though my son's away at college, I think she would choose him. 100%. I think. But Bennigan's out of business, and I don't wait her anymore.
That's where you took Dawn on her first date, right?
No, I took her to Beefsteak Charlie's because it's all you can eat.
I bet Dawn, at this point, how many years have y'all been married? It was just like, okay, this is par for the course. Your wife does all the shopping for you. We know, because we got a Christmas gift from Dawn. It didn't mention Brian. Thank you, Dawn. Dawn does the good cooking in that house. After she vacuums, he gave her a vacuum or something one year.
Did we find out if Dawn was shoveling yesterday?
I got a Fox News alert. Dawn was prepared with the shovel.
Dawn is already up shoveling. Dawn wrote me, and she's been watering the tree.
She does everything.
Does everything.
Wow.
And she's got a beautiful boutique, and she's very pretty as well.
Right.
And she's a business.
Total package.
Right. Right.
How does Dawn live with you?
It's not easy.
And that was my birthday montage from
Happy
Dawn.
birthday, by the way.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yes.
And Dawn is totally reluctant to be on camera, but she did come on and say
She's
hello to
amazing.
with the dog.
And I love all of her clothes.
Right?
At her boutique.
You were so
Are
loyal
awesome.
to Wild Willows.
Wild Willows. Go there.
And the good news is you can order online.
Yep.
You can order online. You don't have to go. In fact, you order online, but it came in a little small or big.
Yes, it was,
Both?
and then she gave me a complimentary, like, massive tote bag, like a beautiful black purse. This place is awesome, and their customer service is fantastic.
Right, it's her.
Yes.
Wild Willows, right in New York City, NY. So, Kennedy, what we were saying, about your podcast.
That's right, Brian.
One Race Success, unbelievable studio, by the way. I like the way you look straight ahead and through the microphone.
Through the microphone, Brian.
You know what I mean? It's kinda,
well, you're my mentor. You taught me that.
No, I kind of do the surveillance thing. I kind of ignore my cameras, right? I'm pretty much security cameras. They're just making sure I don't touch anything.
Sneaking around?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even Jimmy, I noticed that Jimmy Fallon even has more of a podcast studio now. Like I go back to traditional radio.
Sure, Brian.
Right? Don't you think this
you're
feels
a brick
more
and
radio?
mortar guy.
Right. Does this feel more radio?
It certainly does.
Because it is radio.
I mean, the headphones and the microphones.
All right. It's a giveaway.
The lack of video.
Right. Shows it's radio.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say about your podcast? Like who's on this week? Who are the last 3 guests?
That's a great question. Jimmy Fallon is always on Mondays, and we kind of recap the weekend. Today I'm doing a podcast with a criminal defense attorney who's going to break down the Diddy trial and what his team has to present in order to get an acquittal for him.
Well, that's very interesting. Number one. Number two is does he have a shot? I mean, it doesn't seem like
there are people who believe that anyone has a shot because all you need is one juror to go, no, I like him. I believe him. You know, and I think Biggie was murdered and therefore Diddy should go free.
Right. And what was, I'm sorry, I forgot the rap wars. Who shot who?
Oh, that's
Biggie
the kind of
Smalls?
outstanding question. Yes, but Tupac, Biggie.
Who shot him? We found the guy that shot Tupac.
Who claims to know who found the guy
Who shot Biggie
Tupac.
Smalls?
God, I don't know who that is. It was definitely like maybe someone that Suge Knight paid and gold doubloons.
Also, he's a guy who went into prison, got out, and then went back again.
Yeah.
Because he ran somebody over with his car. Right? I mean, why would you go to prison twice?
Yeah. No,
right?
it seems
and
like
then you
one
come
of
out
those
and
things.
He's still rich.
Yeah, where you get out and you're like, oh man, I love these comfortable sheets, and I can eat anytime I want, anything I want.
But wait, he cut me off. I might as well sacrifice everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit him with my car.
Right, absolutely. But Master P is my friend from the rap world.
Oh, that's nice.
Right, and he went to prison to talk to
Suge Knight.
Suge Knight and said, I need Snoop Dogg. Because Snoop Dogg was represented by Suge Knight.
Yeah.
Worked out a deal, paid him off, and he represented Snoop Dogg, and they're a friendship today.
Incredible.
And then somehow
now they're
Tyrus
best. He's best friends with Martha Stewart.
Right. And you would think I like rap by how much I know about rap.
I mean, look at you.
Let's get to the big 3.
Number 3.
We had some very good news last night. The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. We will honor that, and we will stop the bombings.
Really? Houthis halt attacks. 800 targeted strikes from Americans probably changed their mind for now. All right, who wants to get on the first merchant ship unarmed and just sail right through the Gulf? We'll see how that goes.
Number 2.
I didn't see him again until White House Correspondents' Dinner Weekend 2024. And he was bad. He was quite bad in it. And he told the same story twice. And he just seemed mostly old.
Right. Same story twice. That is beyond bad. Democratic disaster. Their moderates are attacked. Their former president disgraced, doesn't realize it. And their loudmouth, high-profile rookie exposed at the airport, acting entitled. Democrats are indeed imploding before our eyes.
Number 1.
What we're going to do in Switzerland is we've agreed to talk. This will be about de-escalation, not about the big trade deal.
Right.
But we've got to de-escalate before we can move forward.
Well, that's fine. You could actually lower the tariffs on both sides. That would help. Number 2 is, what about fentanyl? That'll be a good way to de-escalate. China blinks as cracks in their economy show and their populations begin to lose tolerance for their government. A one-on-one meeting this weekend gives a lot of people hope, including the market, which is up pretty significantly right now, 230 points. Jason Chaffetz joins us now. Did China blink?
I think this is good for both sides. I don't know that they necessarily blinked, but they said no, they weren't going to do the talks. Now they're going to do the talks. So yeah, I think Donald Trump won the first round, if you will.
How bad are things in China, do you think?
When you have people, look, it's a communist government, and so when you have people actually taken to the streets, knowing that the Chinese government knows exactly what they're doing and how they, it's that bad.
Right. China looks like, according to experts who were looking on, including Radio Free Asia. The tariffs are taking a toll. And they took to the streets in China where they give you patriotic scores to decide if you're allowed to travel or raise your family. The company has not paid their wages, according to some factory workers, since 2023. And they have not received Social Security benefits since June of 2023. Those previously employed at other Chinese factories have reported similar issues and the abrupt layoffs. You got a lot of unemployed people who are unhappy. This is only going to make it worse.
Oh, it is, because there was a surge in spending pre-tariff. Now that spending is just halting, and the whole industry. Look, China needs the United States. The United States doesn't need China. We'd like to have a good working relationship.
We need rare earth. We need magnets.
Yeah, we need those things. But I got to tell you, they have a lot more to lose than the United States has to lose, and they just want more even playing field. Look. The Chinese have been stealing our intellectual property. They've been doing so much of the spying on the United States of America. They have not been a responsible world citizen on the stage. And I'm glad Donald Trump's finally calling them to the carpet on it.
Well, it's going to be interesting. The Chinese, for example, they're having problems with their higher ups, their military officials. The number 2 in command was fired 2 weeks ago. Yeah. He's having trouble getting the military to listen to him. So is some of that belligerent behavior we see against the Philippines, is that the military just buzzing around, wreaking havoc or harassing Japanese ships when they needed Japan to be a trade partner? They predicted steady growth, but now since the tariffs, they're not confident of that. They will not raise the rates for pensions or payouts. It's $160 a month. They underinvest in everybody's medical care. They're tired of it. The education and basic social welfare, they're not for. They got low birth rates, growing unrest around young people who are doing this thing called laying flat. Youth who have decided no job, no school. Can you believe that? In China.
Yeah, and they have a population problem in that they count them by the millions. All men without people to date, marry, have a family. That one child policy is not really paying off for them now. But when you have tens of millions of people that don't have anybody to go out and socialize with, that creates a lot of unrest.
Right. So we'll see if they do get some leverage there. And of course, the President of the United States would do very well if he started moving forward. At least the markets would respond to that positively. And people just want certainty. Then if you pull in a Canada deal, a UK deal, an India deal, a South Korea deal, people start looking more positively on the economy. I always said, Jason, this president's not one to be judged on 100 days. 100 days.
He's playing long ball here. He wants to make some fundamental structural changes that will help us in our trajectory far beyond when he's in office. And hats off to him. Rather than reacting to the daily gyrations of a market up and down, he's playing long ball.
So here's Joe Biden. He's speaking again and trying to rewrite his legacy. This is not helping, in my view. Cut 15.
Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded, and what happened was I had become what we had set out to do. No one thought we could do. And become so successful in our agenda, it was hard to say, no, I'm going to stop now. I meant what I said when I started, that I think I'm prepared to hand this to the next generation. It's a transition government. But things moved so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away.
Wow. He said 5 different things. What's your takeaway?
Moving quickly was never an allegation of the Biden administration. It was a move to the radical left. He could have taken the last year of his presidency, passed the baton, and not done that debate, and taken a victory lap for
whatever you think that is.
Yeah, but it was one of the worst presidencies in the history of the United States of America. It put us into this spiral of inflation. And he picked the worst running mate, and she was a terrible candidate. I don't think anybody would have beaten Donald Trump in this last election, but still, come on. He's trying to rewrite history here, and he's
saying that Kamala Harris was his only option. It was not his only option. I mean, if he
could have let
out
it be
normally,
an open process.
Absolutely. Yeah, just let it go. I mean, vice presidents don't automatically get the nomination. They'll have to fight for it. She wouldn't have been able to stand against Pritzker and Gavin Newsom, who were if they were legitimately fighting. Cory Booker, now Wes Moore, Whitmer. She would have been buried. So
she ran before,
why is he doing this? Like, what do you think he's doing? Does he think he can talk his way out of this?
I think he's bored. I don't know who's letting him out to go talk to the media. And I think they want to cash in. I think they need the money. And, they're paying him, $200,000-$300,000 a pop. He's probably got to do a few of those things to just live.
I don't think the BBC actually pays for an interview, do you?
No, but he did these other events. And the way they cover up for these things, they'll do a public event, but then they'll do a private event. And that's where they get paid for either a speech or people come in, get their picture taken, that sort of thing.
So John Fetterman's health is coming to the news. Why? Because I think because he's pro-Israel, against the encampments on those buildings, said nice things at those colleges, said nice things about President Trump. But now they write a killer report that he doesn't take his medication, wanders around aimlessly, impossible to talk to, can't retain any workers. Listen to John. Listen to Senator John Fetterman about what's going on now. Cut 19.
And it was a hit piece, a one-source hit piece. Some anonymous sources, so there's nothing new.
Well, what would you say, Senator, to people that are concerned about you and concerned
about
they're
not. They're actually not concerned. It's a hit piece. So,
why do you think it was a hit piece?
There's no news. There's no news. So please, I think we can all agree.
So one of his ex-staffers wrote it.
But it was his chief of staff. And I can tell you, as a member of Congress, your chief of staff is as close to you as anybody. So everything from the crazy erratic driving to not taking the medication to contacting the doctor, I think it is very newsworthy. It may have a political bent because he has been more centrist. He's the one guy who shows up and actually supports Donald Trump from time to time, actually signs on to some of these bills. But the chief of staff, he picked the chief of staff. He's the one that hired the guy. So for him to come out now and say he's got deep concerns, I think that's a legitimate story.
All right, we're more over Jason Chaffetz just a moment. You weren't outnumbered today?
No.
You were yesterday? Were you not outnumbered yesterday?
No.
Who was I thinking of? Well,
no, I was preparing for your birthday. That's what I was getting.
How do you do that? Do you dress for me?
Yeah. This green tie is all about, yeah.
Yes, because I'm half Irish. All right, more over Jason Chaffetz. When we come back, we talked a lot about the Democrats, but what do Republicans need to do right now when it comes to the big, beautiful bill? This is the Brian Kilmeade Show. So glad you're here.
Why do I care what their status was when they committed the crime? If you can prove they committed a crime. I say in the book, if I get shot, if I get murdered by an undocumented immigrant, please tell my children I did not care that they were undocumented.
Okay, that is great to know. That is a commentator on MSNBC saying there's too much emphasis on illegal immigration. Who cares if they're the ones who kill you? You killed. That is exactly Jason Chaffetz's philosophy. He says it all the time. Jason, you want to expand on why you see eye to eye?
Because maybe they shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. Yeah. Maybe I wouldn't have been shot if they weren't in the country.
My last words would be, it doesn't matter if they were here legally. That would not be my last words.
Are you here legally? Yes. Are you an illegal alien? Please tell me.
Right.
Point well taken, but they shouldn't have been here.
What about Lady Gaga? We send a guy out of our country here illegally. He decides, his name is Luis da Silva, he's going to go to Lady Gaga's concert where they have hundreds of thousands of people there, 2.5 million, excuse me, and he's going to shoot everybody. He's going to look for young people, blow them up, and then shoot everybody, and then shoot himself. So that was a guy living in our country. We sent him out to Brazil, and he threatens to kill Lady Gaga there.
That ain't good. No, look, there are some people, they just need to be incarcerated, then they need to go back to their country of origin. And I'm convinced that some of these countries are releasing some of their worst into our country because it's just a way to get rid of them.
So what do you think about the report that came out of intelligence? It says when it comes to the Alien Enemies Act, you have to show a coordination between the Venezuelan government and TDA. And he goes, well, we don't have anything. Now, of course, to me, logic tells you TDA is allowed to leave the country for one reason, create havoc in America.
Yeah.
They say, well, we have nothing on that. Is that a little like the intelligence state rising up? Because it doesn't sound like Tulsi.
No, it does not. It does not. I can't believe Tulsi Gabbard would ever. No, look.
Because she's D&I.
Look, there's a lot of intelligence that goes into our understanding here. And what we have to understand is when they get designated as a terrorist organization, that's what they are. That's how we do these things. And so when you're designated as a terrorist organization, you get to treat them a little bit different and going after them and making those changes.
Now, what you've seen this video, that's about a minute, and you see as young as a 12-year-old, just beating up on two cops, jumping on his back, young kids. You think, what's going on? Well, they are used by TDA because they know we can't incarcerate any minors under these new rules. So they know they're going to get out. So that's why they keep using these guys over and over again. And they were throwing skateboards at the cops, jumping on their back. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
No, you saw that down at the border. I heard a lot of Border Patrol agents. I've been to the border multiple times. They always talked about, hey, we get underage minors coming across. They jack them up on speed and whatnot, and they'll give them weapons. They'll move drugs. They'll do these types of things because they know if they get caught, the Americans are just going to release them. There's no consequence. It's sad. It's really sad, but it is how they operate. It's how these people think. They're ruthless.
I know you're not a lawyer, but the Aliens Enemies Act got turned down by a second judge. What is that? That says we're at war. These Germans, for example, come into Long Island. We capture them, put them in jail, in military jail. I think we eventually killed them. They had a submarine on board. Obviously, we're at a war with them. It's no problem. Are we at war with TDA? Are we at war with Venezuela? No. But are we at war with these terror organizations? Two judges have said no. Why is that important? Because we need to ship these people out. And we don't have the time to give them a hearing, due process, expedited removal. Clinton did it. Obama did it. What's stopping Trump from doing it?
Because you have these activist judges and you have this so-called resistance movement who just wants to do these things that the Democrats want to do. But I think the president gets to designate this, and it is a national emergency. We've had tens of millions of people come here illegally, and we want to treat them humanely, but sending it back to their country of origin is pretty humane.
Listen to this, how it's being covered elsewhere. Why? Because Donald Trump gets high marks on border security, 55%. But he's at roughly break even when it comes to immigration, illegal immigration, because people go, I see a family of 4 that here illegally. Who are they hurting? Listen to this sympathetic push from other channels. Come 43.
There were stories about how all of this fruit was dying on the vine. And the reason it was dying was because the farm workers who were picking them were afraid to come out of the shadows.
Today is May 5th, and that means Cinco de Mayo. But some communities have canceled or scaled back cultural events because of President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration and the fear among many Latinos that they could be arrested.
Well, if they're here illegally, there probably should be a fear of being arrested. But just because it's Cinco de Mayo, we're going to have some cocktails and guacamole.
It's a trap.
Yeah,
it's a trap. It's not really Cinco de Mayo. We just want you out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
What cave did you come out of?
And don't tell me. It's so racist to be able to say, well, the fruit is just rotting on the vines. And what? You're telling me that they're all illegal immigrants? If you're illegal, you have nothing to worry about. But if you're here illegally, yeah, you probably do have something.
You shocked Michael Waltz was let go?
Kind of. I really like Mike. He and we served together. I'm friends with him. I have the greatest respect for him. But he's going to be in a great spot. Look, I don't know why whether it was the president didn't like the advice he was getting or there just wasn't a compatibility. But, 4 months into it, president making a change. I mean, the president makes frequent changes, but that's a really important post.
And I thought he was perfect for it. I didn't mind when people write about
I don't think it's an integrity issue or anything else.
He's going to be UN ambassador. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the president and the president's team really like the guy. It's just maybe different role for where they want to see him.
So, Jason, when do we see you again?
Probably tomorrow.
Where?
I don't know. I'll just follow you around.
Bottom Line?
Bottom Line. I'm hosting the Bottom Line.
What time is that?
6 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Check out FBN, everybody. Don't move.
What we're going to do in Switzerland is we've agreed to talk. Then on Saturday and Sunday, we will agree what we're going to talk about. My sense is that this will be about de-escalation, not about the big trade deal. But we've got to de-escalate before we can move forward.
So that is the Secretary of Treasury with a really welcoming announcement, in my view. I don't know who wouldn't welcome it. That he's going to have, doesn't sound like anyone blinked. It more looks like China, but the fact is, we're going to meet in Switzerland. We're going to talk about de-escalating before we even talk about specifics. What could that mean? How about a decrease in the tariff rate of 145%? Easy to imagine that going down on both sides. Ken Rogoff is with us now, professor of economics at the Bose chairman of international economics at Harvard, New York Times bestselling author. His latest book is now out. It's called Our Dollar, Your Problem, an insider's view of 7 turbulent decades of global finance and the road ahead. Ken, welcome. Did you like hearing Scott Bessent's voice telling you what's happening this weekend for the economy?
I did. I mean, I like whenever Scott Bessent's being pushed out front. He's sensible, calm. I think he's been doing a great job.
What's your sense? I mean, the market's up today, 215 points, probably on basically that statement. At about 2:30 today, the Fed's going to speak. Do you expect the Fed to move?
No, the Fed's not going to move. I mean, they might. I mean, they're going to move probably at some point later this year, but
not yet.
The job numbers were too good. The inflation's too high. It's just not screaming out to be done yet. I don't think they will. But the market certainly is reacting to China. I don't know where things are going, to be honest. I'm very confused by everything, but there's...
You're confused.
I'm confused. But I think it's not just what he says, but that he's being pushed out to say it, that he's being a voice of the administration. And I think a lot of the market views him as good and reasonable, so they're happy seeing a lot of Scott Bessent.
How happy would the market be, do you think, if we start hearing about trade deals done? India, South Korea,
it'd be great.
Japan.
No, it'd be a tremendous triumph. It depends on the details and everything, but of course it would make people very happy. There's no question. They're looking for an exit. I think a lot of the market believes that in a year, this will be settled one way or the other. We'll have probably 10% tariffs. China, we don't know. And the deal making will be done. They believe that, but we have to get there.
What do you think?
I'm more nervous about it. I mean, it's felt very chaotic to me. I know, it's art of the deal, and I have many, many conservative friends. I regard myself as centrist. Many conservative friends who just say, just don't pay attention to the exact details. It doesn't matter. But on the other hand, it's one thing if you're doing it over real estate and you got 100 deals and you make 5 of them, you're a rich man. But of course, we have to have deals with all the countries, so we have to rope them all in.
Which is interesting. But as people have described to me, in fact, Kevin O'Leary, he said if you get Japan, you get India, and you get the EU, that's 70% of what you need. And he goes, you bring in those 3 big deals. He goes, Wall Street will love it. That'll be a welcome addition to our economy.
They will. There's no doubt about that. That'd be very encouraging. We'll see, how it takes shape. They have their own domestic audiences, they have to satisfy. And so
they can't lose too.
They can't appear to be losing face. I mean, look at Mark Carney in Canada, who's sort of, I don't know where that's going, but he's pushed back and he won an election. So, but I think Trump likes him. That kind of helps. They have some kind of personal relationship, and that's great. Although, it was a little frosty on their meeting the other day. What can you do? But I don't know. I'm a little less certain than the market seems to be that this will all stabilize.
So does this remind you, you look back at 7 decades in finance, does this remind you of any other period?
It 100% reminds me of Nixon. Nixon, like Trump, was a tough person. We hear him, like he didn't have Twitter or, his social media, but you hear him in the Watergate tapes. Like people complain about Trump criticizing Powell. It's nothing compared to the way Nixon dressed down Burns. And he got He didn't just get Burns to do something. He got Burns to pump prime the economy. It actually was a mistake. It created a huge inflation. But, also Nixon, would say these, as a sort of tough SOB at times. You see it. He will curse his allies. He'll say this. But, he was a thinker, and he went to China, for example, at the end. That was a huge triumph. Watergate tapes, not so much. But, well, what can you do?
You realize if Watergate happened to Trump, he would have powered right through it.
No,
he would have just, Trump's mindset.
Brian, I got to tell you this story. Forgive me. I'd been a professional chess player, before I became an economist. I was playing in 1974 in Poland and going with a really top tournament with a bunch of Russian grandmasters. We're taking a nice walk, and I'm telling them about Watergate, and it said the president lost his job. They, what? And I said, yeah, he made tapes at the White House, tapes, and they're going, you idiot. Of course he's making tapes. That's what the Kremlin does. And then I said, but he was forced to give them over to the Senate. And they go, and you believe that? You think that's what really happened? Because, in their world, that's just unimaginable. But that was, clearly this era, that was a big shock to the system and the global financial economy. We went off gold. And
that was his decision.
That was Nixon's decision, absolutely.
Do you like that decision? Did you like it then? Do you like it now?
I liked it. Well, to be honest, then I was playing chess and barely noticed it. And even as an economist, I didn't think about it that much. But I think it's taken me a long time to appreciate how epic it was. So the title of my book, "If Our Dollar, Your Problem," comes from when Nixon sent John Connally over to Europe in 1971. He just went off the gold standard. And they were, what are we going to do? The dollar was as good as gold. We didn't mind holding tons of dollars, kind of like the Asian central banks do, because we could get gold. We were fine. Now you're telling us it's not good as gold. We're worried you're going to inflate. And Connally said, well, our dollar, your problem. But of course, when we went off the gold standard, we hadn't figured out what to do yet to anchor inflation. And it was our problem. The 70s was a tough period.
What did we do?
We had a lot of inflation. And I was actually worked at the Federal Reserve at the very tail end of that. There was someone named G. William Miller that came. Nobody even remembers him, but I worked for him for a short period when he was there. And he had no idea what was going on. And then Carter brought in Volcker. He was the first one to try to rein it in. But he had to raise interest rates to 18, 19%. And it didn't even work the first time. He had to do it twice. And needless to say, it caused a recession. I'm a big fan of Ronald Reagan's. I don't think Jimmy Carter was a great president, but I'm not sure Ronald Reagan would have become president if Volcker hadn't got appointed. So it was an epic moment and sort of set the standard that you let the Fed do what it needs to do to control inflation in normal times. I want to emphasize in normal times, because when there's a pandemic, when there's a financial crisis, war, the Fed's independence has to go by the wayside, and you have to do what you need to do.
I was speaking to Ken Rogoff. His book is now out, Our Dollar, Your Problem. So, Ken, the thing that factors in every day with me, and I know deep thinkers like you, is our debt. So no matter what we're spending now, we got to find a way to pay off that debt. And then when interest rates go up, the interest on the debt goes up. So it's the number one expenditure. Now we're sitting there dancing on the edges and talking about tax cuts, but what has to happen to get the debt going in the right direction? Can we do it through growth?
Well, the best way to do it is through growth. That's what everyone says. But right now, even the interest rates are high enough, and everybody was saying they would never go up again. I felt like a lone voice arguing.
You said they would.
I said they would, yeah. I certainly on your colleague Maria Bartiromo show many, many times for years saying this is going to end, isn't go on forever. So it's more difficult. I mean, right now, the interest rates are a little bit above growth, and so you could sort of sit there. But the trouble is, we're going to have another pandemic. We're going to have, like you say, a war, maybe a cyber war. We're going to need something. So, yeah.
There'll be something unexpected.
Yeah, something unexpected. And then they want it to go up another 30%. And with interest rates, what they are, and us maybe the dollar not being quite as special as it was. That was happening before Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a Trump phenomenon. It's going to be tough. So near term, we at least like to have to appear that we're trying to take this into account. And we haven't until now.
So the way I understand it, in ballpark figures, before the pandemic, we were spending $4.5 trillion, right? Oh, what we brought in $4.5 trillion. Spending. And now it's over $6 trillion. The pandemic's over. We're still spending in that level. Senator Ron Johnson has come out and just said, can we just get down to 4.5? If you look at the revenue we're bringing in, we'd be pretty okay by now. Why is it so difficult to get it down? Is it because of Medicaid and Medicare and those expenditures keep rising?
Well, two things. A wonky point, which we've had a lot of inflation under Biden. So $4.5 trillion ain't what it used to be. So, as a share of the economy, you'd have to go up, I guess, 20%, from the Biden years, which takes you up a ways. But yeah, I mean, if you compare us to other countries, we do much less besides the military and social security and Medicare. And so it's harder for us to adjust. Only Japan's kind of similar to us. So, I won't say I have an easy answer to this, of which way you want to go on this, of spend less, tax more. I don't want to, but yes, there's a problem.
When you look at the big, beautiful bill, as Trump labeled it, we're looking to renew the tax cuts from 2017. I understand it. Keep that levels, make them permanent. I understand it. We're also looking to expand defense up to over $1 trillion. And Senator Roger Wicker came out and said, that's not enough.
I agree with that.
More,
by the way.
add more.
Yeah,
right?
I think you have to adjust for inflation and the fact that there's Iran, there's what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in China. And this is one thing, Trump clearly had right back in his first term and his second term. The Europeans have to pull their weight. It'd probably be good for them, by the way. I think the euro that's their currency, would be more used if people felt they were a geopolitical power. So, but even so, we do need to spend more on military.
I agree.
We live in that world.
But don't we need to find a way to get a smart guy like you in there, Ken, to find out what we're spending it on? Because when we can't pass an audit, which means people aren't recording things, it's impossible. We don't have the records in order to find out what waste is. So people go, are we really going to give $1 trillion before we fix what we're spending it on?
It's a fair point. So people certainly say, look at NASA and look at the fact that Elon Musk seems to be able to send payload up there for 1/15 the price that NASA does. Why isn't there stuff in the military? We have this, I don't know, $1 trillion plane coming online. There are some questions, but it's not easy to cut fat there. I mean, one of the things people don't understand is what seems like waste in the military. Sometimes, you need some excess someplace. You don't know where the enemy is going to strike. It's a competitive game. We cannot afford to lose. So I'm not sure. I think we can just slash things. But yes, getting smart people, I don't know about me, but, like tech people looking at things, of course it's good.
Right. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the economy. Ken Rogoff is with us now, Harvard professor, also is a best-selling author. His latest book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, an insider's view of 7 turbulent decades of global finance and the road ahead. Don't move.
Since the 1980s, at least in the textile industry, a lot of the manufacturing went over to China and Asia, and the current infrastructure is really outdated, so the quality is just not where it used to be. And that's the big misconception. The Asian manufacturers are very, very high-tech and produce very high quality. So if it came back to the U.S., it would take a lot of infrastructure and grants like China does to American companies to bring it back into the U.S. And for the record, I'm a huge fan of that. I would love to support Trump's vision in that, but it's going to take time.
So that is Steve Borelli. He is CEO of Cuts Clothing in Southern California. I also know another clothing manufacturer, Ken Rogoff, with us here. His book is Our Dollar, Your Problem, who said, I'm really nervous. My whole business is Vietnam. Well, that's where they make all my clothing. And if you have 45% or tariffs across the board of 45% at one point, I'm out of business. So how nervous are small business people that you talk to about the uncertainty right now?
Well, the small businesses are really uncertain. I have a friend who imports wine, really small business, but it takes a couple of months for the ships to arrive. She doesn't have the capital to pay for it and then charge people. She needs to charge them in advance. She doesn't know what to charge them because she doesn't know what the tariff's going to be. So I think that's affecting the whole economy.
And do you think that the whole pause until July, and if it stays 10% tariffs across the board, is the certainty livable?
Absolutely. So, it's sort of a dirty little secret among economists because we all like globalization and free trade. But 10% tariffs wouldn't have massive effects. For one thing, we're a really big country. We import a lot, but compared to what we make, it's not really that much. And 10% is not such a big amount. Wouldn't bring things down. It's the uncertainty. That's what's really crippling the economy at the
What
moment.
do you look at to see if the economy is doing what it's supposed to be doing? For example, there were outside inflation. There were really positive numbers for Biden, but most people were not satisfied with the amount of regulation, the amount of green programs, and the DEI that they were forced to abide by. But a lot of the numbers look strong in terms of growth. What do you look for, Ken, to see if an economy is strong?
Well, I think it was a lot of other things. I mean, the open borders policy was just incomprehensible.
We could not get his attention on it.
It couldn't get his attention on it. And it was popular in some circles in my neighborhood in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Well, I don't want to say it went to Harvard, but I had neighbors, who were very smart, who just somehow thought if somebody got to our border, we should just let them in. So that was the DEI had clearly gone too far. I mean, I think
You see it on campus, though.
I see it everywhere. I mean, so I don't want to comment on Harvard specifically, but
you want to work there still.
Because I still work there.
You've been there 20 plus years.
I've been there 25 years. No, Harvard's an amazing place. I think there's a lot of good cause there, but it went too far. And speaking of the infrastructure, they spent a lot of it on infrastructure, but what did they build? I mean, so I think there was a rural internet project, which was to bring internet to rural America. Great idea, $42 billion. They spent it. I don't think they built anything. What about the electric cars? 69 charging stations built. The chips factories, great idea. That's a really good idea. Trump wanted that, bringing chips here. But then they put all these bells and whistles on, like one was that if you take money from the CHIPS Act to build a factory, you have to have high-quality on-site daycare for the construction workers. I mean, so it's like this, they're really looking to get something done.
Right.
And I think Americans knew that. They could see it.
Ken, so glad you came in. Hopefully it's not the last time. Hopefully you'll come in again. Pick up his book, Our Dollar, Your Problem.